And we are back. My name is Ty Newton, here to answer more questions about my debut album, The Future Isn't What It Used to Be. If you don't know what we're doing here, I shared my debut album early with friends and music enthusiasts that I know to get their questions so that I can answer them for all of you right here, right now. By the time I publish this video, the album is almost certainly already released, and if not, it's just about to be. So let me know what you think, but feel free to keep sending me more questions. Now that everybody can hear the whole record, I still have a whole bunch of questions that I plan on responding to, so there's still plenty of time. And please do subscribe to my newsletter. There's definitely going to be a lot more news. Things will be more spread out from here, but there's lots more to come. And by all means, follow me in all the social ways, but subscribe to my newsletter if you want reliable updates, because social media kind of sucks for that. And also you can reply to my emails and those come straight to me, so it's a lot more personal. All right, this round is loosely associated with the song Forever and Anon. Forever and Anon is sort of a play on the archaic phrase ever and anon. It's another way of saying every now and then. It's sort of like saying every now and then and always. The lyrics of the song sort of read like a conversation, but it's actually mostly internal monologue. It's sort of in the context of navigating doubts in a relationship, despite that the relationship is also quite strong and life is good. The speaker is sort of addressing this lifelong habit of imagining alternate pasts and futures, this idea of nostalgia for someone else's life. Like they don't need this habit anymore, but it's hard to quit. So the phrase ever and anon is repeated a few times in the song, referring to that habit of every now and then being not in the moment. And then there are these other plays on the phrase ever and anon, whenever and anon, forever and anon. What else do we have? Wherever and anon. And by the end of the song, the phrase forever and anon sort of means however long this lasts, it's good. Sort of a way of overcoming this habit of looking for some other life. I've always had a really hard time explaining this, and I think this is maybe the best I've ever done. Still probably not that great. If you get a different meaning out of the lyrics of the song, I would love to hear it. All right, let's do questions. I'm gonna kick things off with a question from, of all people, Tull. Who would have thought? Because this question helps kind of set things up. Tull asks, which song surprised you the most in the end? Like, maybe it had less of a plan at the beginning, or it turned out different than you expected once you finished it. And here's the thing. I'm not sure there is one song that stands out as the right answer here, but Forever and Anon did very much surprise me with its production and instrumentation. When I was first working on the guitar part, I thought it was going to stay this pared down, moody groove. And as I built up the song, it just wanted that full rock band instrumentation. And I'm kind of glad because it brings an energy to the record that I don't think any of the other songs have. I originally thought the whole record was going to have very much an alternative percussion feeling about it. I didn't expect at the beginning that I would end up with percussion that is styled to basically sound like a drum kit. But just like Home, Forever and Anon, and parts of other songs as well, wound up having these found percussion amalgamation instruments that sound pretty much like a drum kit. But what I do in production and arrangement is I'm always just listening for what the song seems to want next. And this one, the energy was just pulling toward typical rock band instrumentation, blending that acoustic guitar with the electric, drum kit style with cymbals. And yeah, coming back to the question, maybe it had less of a plan at the beginning. I wouldn't say it was planned or not, really. I'm trying to think if I ever have a plan, really. I'm just sort of getting to know the songs as they come into being. I don't have kids, but I wonder if that's sort of what that's like. You bring this person into the world and then you just gradually get to know them. but the song definitely ended up different than I expected it. And of all of the songs, it went through maybe not the most, but a lot of iteration, and it changed a lot throughout the process. I think it may be really fun to do a pared down version of every song on this record. And the ones that are already pared down, I may just do a little bit differently. Because there's definitely a different personality to all of these songs in the just acoustic guitar and voice instrumentation that they all started with. If that's something that you would really like to hear, let me know. No promises, but I'm seriously considering it. Okay, let's do question 2. This comes from Corey. Corey releases music under the moniker Erocy. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's this cool alt-pop style that I kind of dig. Corey says, congrats on the new release, Ty. Listening now, really enjoying the acoustic guitar sounds, open tuning, riffs. Would you be kind enough to share your signal chain? Mics, processing. Okay, so acoustic signal chain. How far do we want to go here? All right, let's start here. For recording, I use my decent mid-range Taylor acoustic. I'll pick it up later. Nothing really special, but I think it sounds really great. It has its quirks. I definitely have to EQ some weird frequencies out and things like that. My microphone that I use primarily is an AKG Perception 220. It also has a capsule modification. This was all a gift from my brother, I believe. Justin Newton, recording engineer, J-Song Studio, Cincinnati. I think you can find the exact modification on microphoneparts.com. That's microphone-parts.com. I'm pretty sure that same mod kit is there. This is not the room that I recorded this record in. I may record more stuff here, but not what you're hearing so far. But I have these custom acoustic panels that I built actually with my dad's help many, many, many years ago. I basically just set them up and balance them in this loose kind of booth arrangement around whatever it is I'm recording, whether it's my vocals or my guitar, and that helps reduce some of the reflections in the room. Obviously, this room I have also treated a little bit. You can see over here and in the back. I do also use one of these filters that sits behind the microphone to deaden some of those reflections in the back. And a lot of times that's probably already enough, to be honest. And I think mic position matters a whole lot with acoustic guitar, and for some songs I record it further away and closer. If I need the acoustic guitar to cut through a busy mix, which is the case in I guess most of my songs so far on this record at least, I tend to mic it fairly close, maybe like a foot and a half away, aimed not directly at the sound hole, kind of more at the fretboard. But I think all of that kind of depends on the guitar, you know? And say for the song, The Future Isn't What It Used to Be, where it's mostly acoustic guitar, I believe I did mic it further away from the guitar in that case. So I could just let the volume of the guitar be a little bit more dynamic. And I've actually already recorded songs that are not on this record that are more in that territory, by the way. So some of that stuff will be coming. And here's the thing, I am so not an expert at this. I've picked up all sorts of tips from my brother and from other experts sharing their wealth of knowledge on the internet, and I still struggle with this, but I managed to get it halfway decent for the record, I think. My recording interface is an aging Universal Audio Apollo Twin Mark II Duo. Thunderbolt 2 connection translated into the modern Thunderbolt with a USB-C shape. I'm giving you all the details, aren't I? Okay, not all of them. All right, signal chain in the DAW. I'll lay it out for you. I'm basically using all Logic Pro stock plugins for my acoustic guitar. I use serial compression, which I think is maybe a little bit weird. Some of my parasocial mentors, so to speak, recommend against compressing guitar almost ever, and that's probably good advice, but to cut through the mix, I've found I just kind of need to compress it, and I do it similarly to the way I do vocals. I learned this mostly from my brother. Serial compression, hit it with a compressor to reduce the peaks first, the loudest peaks, and tame those, and then just a gentle second pass to smooth it all out. And then I've got some subtractive EQ to clean up the most annoying high-end quirks from my instrument. And then again, to just shape it a little bit for the song. This is maybe a weird thing. A lot of times I've been using Logic's native stereo spread plugin, which distributes the frequency of whatever you're passing through it right and left, so that it still translates to mono from stereo well. Neighboring frequencies are going either right or left, and it just kind of spreads things out and adds some width to that instrument. And I'm doing this despite the fact that I'm also often doubling the guitar parts. So I'm recording one for the right and the left. It's probably kind of a weird move, but I've been enjoying the way it sounds, so if it sounds good, it is good. I've got some reverb on there. Mostly I'm using Logic's Chromaverb. The darkroom setting is the preset I start with, and then I tweak a little bit from there. And a major part of the guitar tone that I've been using is I'm blending acoustic guitar and electric a lot of the time. So all of these songs start with acoustic guitar and voice, but a lot of the sound that I've fallen into is not just acoustic guitar and electric guitar complementing each other with differing parts, but they're playing almost the same part. Maybe one is panned right or left, and maybe one is played slightly differently because it just wants to be for the sound of that instrument, but they end up blending together to create a more full sound and tone. I didn't know I was going to want to do that until I started working on the production of these songs, and it's just what made sense. You mentioned open tunings, and it makes sense that it sounds that way, but I actually don't use any open tunings, not on any of these songs so far. I think the reason that it sounds that way has to do with a couple things. I tend to use a lot of droning open strings, which is pretty characteristic of the way you'd play with an open tuning. And I think it just gives it this tonal center throughout the song. But it's not a style that I developed intentionally. It's sort of just how I've wound up playing. I can't be alone in that, right? I should figure out who else plays this way, because I honestly don't know where it comes from. But the other thing is I also use a capo a lot. In Forever and Anon, the capo is on the first fret, and there's just something about that slight change where you're just shifting it up a half a step that it just gave it what it needed, I felt. Another maybe interesting thing that affects the sound with my acoustic guitar is I sometimes use a pick, but a lot of times I just use my fingers sort of like a pick. Corey and I have actually already discussed this a bit, but it sort of allows a lot of different timbre and dynamics, but it really depends on the song. I believe in the recording for Forever and Anon, it actually is a pick, but say for something more pared down, like The Future Isn't What It Used to Be, it's all fingers. So I can hit it with like the skin of the thumb to get a more muted, warmer sound, and attack with one or more fingernails to get a sharper attack and a louder, more high-frequency sound. The problem, of course, is taking care of your fingernails. They end up wearing through sometimes, so I actually need to protect them. That is a whole other can of worms I'm not getting into in this video. I've already spent way too much time on this. All right, back to Tull again for question 3. Tull says, "Love that last line, a friend to grow old with. Was really struck by it, and then surprised and moved by the little riff after it. Can you say more about that riff at the end of that song? Is riff the right word?" Yeah, I think riff is fine. It's a little melody. I might call it a tag. The way I would define tag in musical structure terms is it's usually a melodic thing, but it's sort of just this little ornament that is used as a transition between sections. This one is actually just sort of a callback to an instrumental melody that's buried in the chords of the chorus. The way that this song got built up in production, it may have kind of buried this melody, and you probably don't notice it the way that you might if I was just playing it with acoustic guitar. But it's actually quite naked in the second part of the second chorus. there's this sort of pared down chorus. You might call it a down chorus. You know, when a song has like a full on loud chorus and then they kind of go down and they repeat it, but it's kind of quiet. It's like that. You know what? I think I'm just gonna show you what I mean. This is not going to be an ideal mic setup. So there's a chorus part. It's sort of a quiet chorus. It's a down chorus, as you might call it, like down energy, lower energy chorus. Although it's a stretch to say that any of these choruses are actual choruses because the lyrics are different in every single one. I have a habit of doing that. I don't tend to repeat lyrics. But that melody kind of comes out in that part, and it's buried in all of the other chorus, quote unquote, parts. They go. And then at the end, it comes back an octave up. So it's just kind of a little callback to that theme. So anyway, that little twinkly melodic tag at the very end of the song, basically after the song ends, it's repeating that little chorus melody. But I sense that you may have been curious about whether or not that little melodic tag relates to that last line, a friend to grow old with. And I think the answer is unconsciously yes. The chorus of the song from which that tag melody comes is lyrically expressing that habit of getting lost in daydreams about imaginary lives, despite that the current life is actually pretty good. And let's say this twinkly melody at the end is sort of a callback to that chorus to sort of indicate a new habit of dreaming about this good thing lasting. Or maybe not, and slipping back into the habit. Ever and anon. Forever and anon. Okay, well, I think those questions are pretty well cooked. I hope they're pretty well cooked. Let me know if you have any follow-ups for me. The full album release should be upon us by now, so please go listen to it. Let me know what you think. Very excited to share it with you all. And keep the questions coming. I plan to do plenty more of these videos. Send me all of that stuff. You can send those in comments, you can DM me, and you can absolutely reply to me directly in the emails that I send via my newsletter. Thank you guys so much for the questions, and I will catch you in the next one. Cheers. It's kind of a stretch to call it a chorus, I realize, because generally choruses repeat the same lyrics, and I have this habit of making choruses that actually have different lyrics every time, but it still has a feeling of a chorus, to me at least.
Hello?
Ta-da!